Hello, this is Gene. I'm going to talk about the Cucks of the week. There are a couple of honorable mentions. One would be John McCain. This whole thing with the whole transgender thing, they had to come out yesterday and basically upstage the president, and also the fact that he said he was going to vote for a repeal of Obamacare, and then he decided not to do it at the last second. And of course, he had to go up there and um, you know get sympathy points for his cancer. Now, somebody who's had cancer twice in my life, I don't really like it when people use that to get some sympathy from it, or accept, or at that point when you have this diagnosis, now that people are actually going to take you seriously. And it's been a long time since I've ever been able to take John McCain seriously. So he was one of the honorable mentions. I'm not going to go after him because enough people have. I also like to say a guy that I like a lot, Ariel Helwani, for the MMA stuff. He's always playing the victim when Dana White does something to him at the UFC, and I wish he would stop doing that. And unfortunately, he has a lot of the same characteristics of his people, and he continually talks about it all the time. Last night, in an interview with Daniel Cormier, the UFC heavyweight champion, he was talking about that eating pig is like the worst thing in the world, and all this stuff about catfish and all this stuff. And okay, we get it. You're a Jew. I get it. Okay. But the winner this week clearly has to be, and other people have talked about these people, but it's clearly the skeptic community after what they've done in the last 2 or 3 weeks dealing with Rage After Storm about her video on race realism. There have been a lot of people out there that have destroyed them online. One of them is Tree of Logic, and I'll put her information down below. Yes, those who watch me who are more into the white nationalist people who don't believe that black people have an opinion, that's something we should look at. I would ask you to watch her. She's a conservative black woman, former cop. She's supportive of the alt-right because she understands that she would be supportive of people who are black if they wanted to gang up together. That's a bad word to say together, but for their type of rights for their people, let's say. So she understands why people on the alt-right are doing what they're trying to do, and she understands that in the West that there is a real thing called white genocide, and she understands that. So I would watch her stuff, and I like how she took them down. She had a stream the other day. She was on there with a couple people. They're alt-right guys, and they pretty much have the same opinion about the skeptic community. So for some of you that don't understand, and I'll try to explain what happened and their response to it, and how it continued on, and how some people have a respect for. I never really say I have a whole lot of respect for them. I've followed a couple of them. I've been subscribers to some of their channels, but over the years I've got rid of them because what they say is the same bullshit all the time. They're no different than any other SJWs that are on the left. They're not really conservatives either. They're basically atheists who think that they're more smarter than everybody in the room. And even though this boy right here, who's gone through 2 strokes and probably lost 10 points of my IQ, is still clearly smarter than these people are, and we'll look at reason and facts before I render my opinion. So there was this girl who lives in Germany, and she had a video about race realism. Now, this is a female that's somewhat nice looking. Now, on this is just my opinion, and I think that the facts will bear it out. If you're somewhat of a nice looking woman and they find your channel on YouTube, you're going to find a lot of guys that are going to go on there and just subscribe to her and say nice things in the comments about, whatever, sexual type things. And those people will get a huge amount more subscribers than a normal guy will be. Although, like I said, PewDiePie has got the most of anybody. But overall, you can see this. It's a phenomenon that's on YouTube, or any type of visual media services. I mean, because guys are media, or we're image, we're driven by the images that we see. That's why porn is so huge, stuff like that. And everybody knows this. So it's not, she's somewhat nice looking, above average, I'd say. And for a long time, she was a feminist. And what happens when you take that red pill, and this happened with me, if you keep going and going and going, or if you just stop at one level, then it's one thing. Oh, okay, I look at things a little differently now. Like Lacey Green has now kind of changed a little bit, but she still is very SJW in so many ways. Especially with the trans thing, she still think it's okay that they should come in the military. Again, this is somebody who has no idea what she's talking about. But anyway, that's her opinion. That's fine. But she'll stop at one level. Some people, when you're young, especially, you're more malleable, and you can actually say, "Oh, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here," and all of a sudden, this woman, Race Average Storm, went from being a feminist is now alt-right. She's gone, and that took me especially, it took me about 2 years for me to get to there. Again, I've said many times I'm not alt-right because I don't believe everything, and I do think there's elements in this movement that is not good for us, let's just say. But they're necessary, and these guys they're the 1488 guys, they have a point and a part to say. But all she really did is she did a video about race realism, and she said some of the same things that thousands of people have said online, especially one like IAU, atheism is impossible. So, and this is what this is all going to come around to. About 6 or 8 months ago, I sent a video to Devon I.E to basically support him in his free speech thing, because he was getting flagged all the time because he was saying stuff that is inconvenient truths about the black community, and also Islam and stuff like that. So he was having issues with that, and people would get upset about him. And he said some things about to a young guy, and there was a guy on the skeptic community that just was in love with Devon, but after Devon said something about this kid who was basically in his comments and saying shit about him all the time, that Devon just basically said, I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And this boy got doxxed, let's say. And, of course, Devon said he didn't do it. Whatever he did, was from public records. He didn't just out the guy to do it. And then, of course, the skeptic community, and one in particular, Kraut and T, just went over backwards with him. And also some people like Naked Ape and some of the other guys that are in the skeptic community, some of them are really on the alt-right, that they just couldn't do with it. And they just kept going on and on about Devon. And for a while there, Devon was taken off YouTube. He had several times he lost his channels. He had to read up another one. And he got smart eventually and got his own website to do it. But he's back on YouTube again. Now, me and Devon are from the same generation. Now, he's a lot younger than me. He's, what would they call it, the last of the Generation X, and I'm one of the older ones. So me and him are on the same level in a lot of areas. Certainly not politically, but he and I understand context. And he gets bitchy too. I mean, he does. He gets emotional as well. But I wanted to support him, and he responded to it. And he's always responded to the stuff I've done to him. This is a guy that's got a lot of followers. I have none. And he's always had response to me, whatever I have to say. And I've tried to help him in the past about certain things. But he's his own man. He makes his own decisions. But I will always defend his right to his free speech. So it started back then. There were people in the skeptic community that wanted to stop his ability for free speech because it was wrong think or whatever. So everybody got really upset. Now it was rage over storm, and of course there's a difference because she's a nice-looking female, so everybody's going to come to her aid. Now, not everybody did, of course. The skeptic community has destroyed her, try to say that all her facts were wrong when clearly they are. And I'll try to put down some of that information below so you guys can look at it. And she talks about the stuff that Devon has been talking about for two years, that Colin Flaherty has been talking about for years, that even Tommy Sotomayor have been talking for years about the epidemic of black crime, and not against themselves as well, but against everybody else. And it's just, when you look at the numbers, it's just, what's going on here? Now, Tommy and I believe that it's the fathers not being in the house. I don't think there's some sort of tie to IQ necessarily to the criminality of the black community, but it's there in some areas. So that's basically what Ray's was talking about. And what happens here is one of the skeptic community, I don't know, I'm not going to say he's a token, but really he kind of is. And he has a decent following on YouTube. He's got over 100,000 subscribers. And like I said, I've watched his stuff before, and some of it he says is okay, but he can't really talk. Now, somebody like myself, who's had a stroke or twice, one of them that actually affected my language centers, when I did talk for 3 weeks or 3 months, I can't talk like I used to. I mean, I used to really talk very well, and I knew a hell of a lot more words. You know, it's hard to explain, but I have to actually find these words before I say it. And I'm saying it right now. I'm already thinking about what I'm thinking next so I can get it out. If not, I'll have to pause and try to find those things. But this guy is young. His vocabulary is limited. I'm not saying he's low IQ or not. I'm just saying but he got really butthurt by the fact that Rage was talking about as a group, normal African Americans are about 85% or 85 for IQ. Now, he could be 100 or he could be 85. You can be 85 and still have a YouTube channel and do well. It doesn't mean you can't do well. And IQ isn't the be-all, all-all. But all the studies and all the science is, in psychology, it's like the biggest research thing ever, okay? So when these guys like that try to say that, oh, that's not real, that there is no relationship between race and IQ, that IQ is not genetic, when there's thousands of stories or studies that shows the link there, doesn't really mean a whole of a lot. I mean, obviously it was some sort of white nationalism that all these studies were because everybody who does these studies are considered white nationalists or white supremacists. But all those same studies show that people in Eastern Asia have a higher IQ than white people do. So I mean, I guess that could be white guilt saying we can't be number one, so we'll have to do this. But he got so butthurt, and then Tree called him out about it, and then he kept sending little videos out there saying that, well, her sources were not right, and one of them's a Daily Stormer, and we can't trust that, and no, it doesn't talk about any of these books or any of these studies about environment. So what I did is actually sent him on I sent it through Twitter, I did it on YouTube, I gave him a PDF of the bell curve, and the bell curve talks about environment. So this guy and everybody on the skeptic community who claims that they follow science don't do it. And they are still the same as everybody else. They think that if what you think is wrong thing, they're going to call you out. And they try to say, well, and they're all these very young guys that just don't, girls and guys that just don't really understand the world as it is. Haven't been around anywhere. Which is fine. You know, I'm good. They have nice following, and a lot of people are going to be on their side on it because you can't say anything like that when it's the factual evidence are there. So they ran Rage off social media. Now, I wouldn't have ran. Again, I'm not, she had a job, and I guess Kraut actually said something to her employer. Now, this is the guy that says, I don't want to dox anybody, but she tried to do that to Rage and made her lose her job. Now, people go, well, she wasn't being paid or anything like that. That doesn't really matter to you. You go after somebody because you don't like what they think. Kraut, you sat there with your top of your fucking horse yelling at Devon all this time about what he did or what he did not do to that kid. And then you sit there and say how horrible that was, and you did it to a person as well. And then you later on in your tweet saying, yeah, I probably went too far. Now, I think that the skeptic community probably needs to get together. They need to apologize to Rage, and they say that we'll have the debate and have it happen. I mean, obviously, people have asked many, many times for this debate to happen. Tree has been done it many times, but they won't do it because they know that all the studies point to the differences between races when it comes to IQ. It's not a good thing or a bad thing per se, but it's something that's been talked about, and it's been studied more than anything else in psychology. So just because people get upset because there's racial differences. It's like what I said before in many of my videos. In IQ, parts of the people of East Asia and stuff have the highest IQ. Parts of the Jewish community have the highest IQ. The white community around the world's about the same, 3 or 4 points below those. And then it's about another 10 points down to African Americans. And then when you get into like parts of Africa where it's 65, 70, I mean it's pretty easy to understand why African Americans have a higher IQ than their quote-unquote ancestors that are on the mainland in Africa. That it's through mixing of European people, and their IQ has actually come down. Now, people don't want to talk about this, but our IQ as far as the United States has gone down, and around the world it's gone down. And people think that by mixing, that's the best thing you can do, that there'll be no racial type of issues after that, which is all bullshit, because that's not how humans work. If everybody mixed and we all look somewhat the same color, there'll be something else that you're going to be against. You just will. That's how human nature is. That will not ever be taken out of how we are. We're always going to find something different than something else. Now, maybe through education that wouldn't happen, or allowing our human nature to just realize what it is. So, again, see, this is what happens. I'm losing my train of thought. But anyway, this Tree tried to get them to debate. They won't want to do it, and then he kept coming online, little videos saying that he's not going to debate it because why should I debate somebody that's using Dale or Stormer as a source? But again, these people don't want to have a debate. They just want to sit there and they go in their little streams and they just yell at each other. And they have what they call it, autism screeching that they do. It's all emotional. It's not based by reason, and they are clearly the cucks of the week, and I'll put all their names down. I don't want to give them any credit, but the biggest people that were involved in this, that should be called out on it, that should be asked to debate on, is some black guy and Kraut and T. Those two people need to be called into it because they are the biggest hypocrites in the skeptic community. They just are. Especially Kraut. He just is. He talks about, I live in an area that what I say that the people that are Muslims might come over and kill me. Well, so does Devon. Devon lives in Berlin for most of the time. And all the shit people know what he looks like. His picture's out there. And somehow he's still alive. And he'll continually say what he's got to say. And the other guy, the fact that he basically had to take his tail between his his legs when Tree of Life came in and just, or Tree of Logic came in and just destroyed him. And there's no way that he could deal with a strong woman or a black woman like that. Forget that. And he knows this. That's why he's not doing it. So, before I leave, it looks like there's going to be a big debate on the Holocaust. And it looks like Prison Planet Paul Joseph Washington is going to debate somebody who believes that the Holocaust is a myth, let's say. The Holocaust or the Holocaust. Before that happens, I want to get my information out there and say, clearly, Hitler interned Jewish people and other people, quote-unquote, enemies of the state, per se, or slave-type labor to help out with the war effort. In my opinion, he didn't gas Jewish people as a statement of policy. I don't think that, I think most of those crematorium was actually to burn the shitty clothes that they came on and other things. I don't believe in the 6 million, and I think that most of the camps have already taken the totals way down, including Auschwitz, which is from 4.1 to 1 million, and Medina from 2 to 0.796, or it's not 6 million, and of course it's still a bad thing that he did it. But it's gonna be interesting if they actually have this debate. Hopefully the guy that's quote unquote on the side of the revisionists will do well, because Paul has a huge following. on YouTube, and it'd be nice to see that that gets out there, because that story needs to be squashed, because the ramifications of it and the narrative that it has is destroyed European people since they started it. Now, yeah, the Germans did it, but what the Jewish people got since then, and how they've destroyed us and their thought processes. Now, this is all before the Holocaust. Okay, they've had the same idea that they wanted to basically rule Europe using multiculturalism to do it. I mean, it's always been there. But I'll be interested to see how that works. And basically, that's all I have. If you have any comments below. Also, thank you there's been a lot of comments this week, and I like that. And so that's good that we're getting some more stuff out there. And that's my wall photo going. But anyway, please share this, like it, and give me a comment, and we'll talk about it in the comments. You guys have a good weekend. And who you got on Saturday? I want DC to win. I think it's the better band overall. But John Jones is just the man. I don't know. But I want DC to win. You guys have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye.